Blog Talk Radio.
Thinking about you. Last night was crazy. Can we do it again? 6 in the morning, boy, I'm so hungry. Appetite's calling, sobbing for you. Love me so long, you put it on me. Now I can't wait, I need a taste of you. Don't make me wait, I need you right here. So I'm doing night on the house. I hope you're ready. For some more like a boomerang, 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 boomerang. Don't know how.
Lay your body right here with me, 'cause you know just what I'm gonna do. I'ma whisper in your ear and say those freaky things to you. Temperature rise, your body is fire, and I'ma give you all of this love. So come here, baby, let me drive you crazy. I hope you're ready. Come and take me for some more like that, girl. Boomerang, boomerang, boomerang. You know how to take it. When it feels like that, girl. Boomerang, boomerang, boomerang. Won't you hold me like your pillow, babe, so I can rock 'em by your body, sexy lady. It's going down like that. Gonna work the front to back, 'cause I ain't the bleed. Appetite's calling, starving for you. Love me so long, you put it on me. Now I can't wait, I need a taste of you.
And good evening and welcome to another edition of the Batchelor News Radio Show. I'm L.A. Batchelor. We thank you for joining us. As always, we appreciate you listening. You could have been doing something else. We invite you and thank you for tuning in. 646-929-0130, the number to get in touch with us. Press 1 to get on the line. You have some news to share with you later in the show. But I want to get to my first guest. He is a syndicated talk show host. He is a political scientist and a best-selling author. Always good to have this doctor making a house call. He's Dr. Wilmer J. Leon. And Doc, appreciate you, sir. I hope all is well with you and your family.
Man, I'm talking to L.A. Batchelor. I'm doing great.
You know what? Again, the check is in the mail. Just if it bounces, just don't hold it against me. But
No,
check is
I'll just keep dribbling. That's if it bounces, I'll keep dribbling. What's up, man?
I wanted to touch on a few things. I want to start with the Iowa caucuses. The elections, of course, will be coming up within months, early part of next year, and I want to touch on a few of the candidates on the Democratic side real quick. And Joe Biden, who in South Carolina, and New Hampshire and some places like that, but more specifically South Carolina because of the African American vote and African Americans love Joe Biden, is really struggling in Iowa right now. The polls, the latest polls, I'm sure you do the data. I think he's like fourth place. Can he survive with the numbers that he's getting in Iowa? Number one. Number two, the what we're hearing and reports that he's spending more money than he has. He doesn't have the money, so he's not fundraising as good as he is. And is it enough to just kind of say, okay, well, if he loses Iowa, he's got South Carolina because black folk there with the black folks in there and the Congressional Black Caucus, it seems, the CBC there, are supporting him. Can he get through that early storm and still make it through to South Carolina and other states?
It's all about momentum. And right now in Iowa, Biden is struggling. And so you go from Iowa to New Hampshire,
right?
And then you go from New Hampshire to South Carolina. Well, if Biden doesn't fare well in Iowa, whoever it is that wins carries momentum into New Hampshire. And it's quite possible that the momentum that's carried into New Hampshire winds up resulting in a victory in New Hampshire. So it's quite possible, this is not a prediction, but it's quite possible that Biden could lose Iowa and New Hampshire. That's a hard, and what happens in the process is allegiances start to shift. All of those folks in South Carolina that were waiting for a victorious Joe Biden to come to South Carolina are all of a sudden saying, wait a minute, this might not be the best horse to put our money on. So, sitting here right now on the 11th of November, I can't make a prediction, but I can just tell you that right now, it's not looking good for Joe Biden, which I would say is why the former mayor of New York, what's his name?
Bloomberg.
That's jumping. Bloomberg.
Yeah.
That's why I believe Bloomberg did not wake up last Monday and say, after he finished his Cocoa Puffs and his orange juice, and say, you know what? I think I'm going to run for president. I think there are some Democratic Party elite that have been calling Bloomberg and saying, look, we need you because Biden is struggling. And so I think there are a number of things at play here. And the final element to your question, what I don't understand, and I don't say this as an endorsement, I say this simply as asking the question. why won't mainstream media give Bernie Sanders his due? Bernie's kicking butt and taking names. I think I said on this show a couple weeks ago that if Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez, Ilhan Omar, and Rashida Tlaib, remember when they came out and said they were going to back Bernie?
Yep.
And at the time, Bernie was down around 11%. And I think I said to you, pay very close attention to what happens to Bernie's numbers if they come out and endorse him. If their endorsement pushes Bernie back in contention, that's a problem for the Democrats. Because it does two things. It pushes Bernie back in contention, but it also validates the power of the constituency that 3 of the 4 members of the squad represent. And that's something that the Democratic elite are trying their best to ignore.
Yeah, and the fourth person actually is endorsing Elizabeth Warren. Let talk with Dr. Leon. Doc, let me just stay with Mayor Bloomberg, because to me, listen, everybody talks about how Trump was a Democrat, then he was a Republican, all of. Bloomberg was a Republican, then he was an independent, then he was a Democrat. I don't understand why, as a Democrat, it's just playing advocate and looking at this situation, that anybody would vote for him. Look, if you're against stop and frisk, that's a deal breaker right there. When stop and frisk was deemed unconstitutional, he pushed for it anyway. He still tried to push it in New York, and I know he was a popular mayor in New York, but that's not going to play in Alabama and Mississippi, and certainly it may not play in some of the swing states. So as a Democrat, and he's a new Democrat, why would someone vote for him? And then the other part of that question is, why, if he's so concerned, if he's a never Trumper, if he wants Trump to be gone, then why not back one of these Democrats, put a ton of money back because he's got a ton of money, and just back the candidate of your choice?
Okay, a couple of great questions. Let me see if I can remember all of them and work through them. First of all, Bloomberg was a Republican because that was the space for him on the ballot to fill. Ideologically, socially, Bloomberg is a centrist Democrat. Economically, Bloomberg is a liberal Republican. So he can vacillate back and forth between the two depending on what the issue is. Stop and frisk really only matters to people of color.
And that's it. And that's a deal breaker for me. And that should be a deal breaker for black people and people of color. If you want to support that stop and frisk, then that's a deal breaker right there.
As it should be for as it should be for everybody. Because it was an unconstitutional, ineffective method of policing that disproportionately impacted people of color. But here's the thing. Democrats don't give a damn about policy that matters to people of color. They're just as bad as the Republicans are. They are merely trying to put up the facade.
Amen about that.
They are merely putting up the facade. They're right there with the Republicans already. They don't really care that stop and frisk in the minds of many black people is a showstopper as it relates to Bloomberg. They believe, arrogantly, they can talk their way through it. They also believe that we're not going to be one-issue voters that will say, yeah, I know where he was, I'll stop and frisk, but we hate Trump more than we hate stop and frisk. And the other stuff he's talking about, well, okay, we're going to give him a pass. That's what they're banking on, is African Americans doing historically what we tend to do, give white Democrats a pass. So now I forgot your other question.
Well, just why not just if he's so concerned about getting rid of Trump, why not back another candidate?
Because the only viable candidate that he, as Bloomberg, can back is Biden, and that Biden ship is taking on water. And so, for him to back Biden is the closest thing to Bloomberg's political position that is viable. He can't back Buttigieg because Buttigieg isn't going to win, and he can't back Sanders or Warren because he doesn't see that as in the Democratic elite are trying their best to run from Sanders and Warren. So here to me, from all of the great questions that you asked, to me, here's the real question that nobody's asking. Why is the Democratic elite running from the two candidates that are clearly representing the bulk of the Democratic Party, Bernie Sanders and Elizabeth Warren? And I don't ask those questions, again, endorsing either of those two individuals, because I'm a political scientist. I am not a political operative. But when you look at the numbers, and when you listen to what those two individuals are articulating, their messages are what is resonating with the bulk of the Democratic electorate. But Nancy Pelosi and Chuck Schumer and who's the head of the DNC?
What's his name? This Hispanic gentleman. Okay, Tom Perez. Yeah.
And Tom Perez and Barack Obama and Hillary Clinton and Bill Clinton, they can't get on the Sanders-Warren train. So really what I see here is Tom Perez, Barack Obama, and the Clintons are trying to figure out how they can find a candidate that is how they can find a viable candidate that's not Bernie Sanders or Elizabeth Warren. And why the media? Last week, Bernie Sanders went from 11 points up to 22 points based upon the endorsement of Ocasio-Cortez, Ilhan Omar, Rashida Tlaib. And all you heard about last week was Pete Buttigieg. And by the way, Bernie Sanders, I think, has more money than any of them. But they're doing to Bernie now what they did to Bernie in 2016. They are trying their damnedest to ignore Bernie Sanders. And I got to say again, I'm not endorsing Bernie, but if you're really paying attention to what's going on, you have to ask yourself why.
Yeah.
And
Well,
when you look at the polling, Bernie. Okay, well, right now, depending on what poll you look at, when you compare Buttigieg, Sanders, Warren, and Biden, when you compare the four of them against how they fare against Donald Trump, they all beat him. Elizabeth is 6 points. Bernie's up 3 points. Buttigieg is up 4 points, and Biden is up 1 point. So that's all basically within the margin of error. So you could pretty much say that those four are a dead heat. They all beat Trump, but within the Democratic category, it's a dead heat.
Yeah. Before I go to Reggie, and I had a couple of email questions. We're talking with Dr. Wilmer J. Leon, of course, the best-selling author and a talk show host on XM Satellite Radio. Doc, Representative Clyburn was on CNN, and he was asked a question about Mayor Pete and, the so-called data from Mayor Pete's people shows that African Americans are not in tune with him because older African Americans, at least in the demographics, according to their numbers, show that black people don't want to vote for a gay guy. Just to put it in simple terms, they don't.
Mm-hmm.
Older black people. And Representative Clyburn, who we respect, and he's been with the CBC and been in the Congress for a while in South Carolina, knows South Carolina, and certainly is not endorsing Mayor Pete. Sort of said, yeah, that's the case. Older black people, because of our faith and everything else, won't vote for him because of his sexuality. A, do you think the data is true? B, do you think that's true? And C, I guess the first two parts are questions before I go to Reggie, but the third part of it is sort of a comment, because Mayor Pete needs to worry about, he fired a black police chief. He didn't handle a murder that was very well documented and well publicized, of a black man being killed by a police officer there in Indiana, in his city, and C, he doesn't seem to be able to connect to black people. That seems to be the real issues. But what say you on the questions and the comment as it relates to Representative Clyburn and the so-called data from Mayor Pete and his people?
I think Clyburn's comment is accurate. I don't believe that older African American voters are ready to vote for a gay candidate. But as I've said to you before, and some may find this to be a distinction without a difference, but I think it is relevant. It's not so much that he's gay as it is that he's married. And it's the optic or the optics of him kissing his husband after the swearing in. It's him dancing with his husband on national television. And it's the thought of two men sleeping in the White House. And I am not giving you a value judgment on where I stand on that issue. I am trying to answer your question based upon the data.
But I guess the
think,
problem I have with it, I may tend to agree with you in terms of older black people. I guess my problem is that so does other white people, so does Jewish people,
I was getting to that.
so does other groups. Yeah.
But that wasn't what you. I was going to get to that, but that wasn't what you asked me. You asked me about Clyburn and black people. The next thing I was going to get to was so-called Christians white Christians in the South. So-called evangelicals, and it's not just African Americans that have this problem. America has the problem, which is why my analysis shifted away from his sexual preference to focusing on the fact that he's married. Because it's not that African Americans have the problem. America has the problem. And so what I was going to get to was, this sounds eerily reminiscent to me of blaming black people for why Hillary Clinton didn't win the election. That's a lame, stupid argument, unfounded, unsupportable by the data. But you'll hear a lot of people who still want to come out and say that black people didn't turn out to the polls, and it's because either black people didn't turn out for the polls or black people voted third-party candidates is why we have Hillary Clinton. Is why we have Donald Trump as president. That's just stupid. It's ignorant. It's not supported by the data. But people still want to have that conversation. So to try to also say that Pete Buttigieg won't win because black people in the South are homophobic, no, that's not right. And again, the data doesn't support it. But that's the dialogue that a lot of ignorant people want to have.
Yeah, apparently Buttigieg's people want to have that kind of conversation, but it's really ridiculous.
Well, see, no. Wait. See, that's very telling because that plays to the stereotype that African American people are emotional voters.
Right.
That we're not focused on issues. What he did to that police chief was unforgivable.
Exactly.
That's what we're focused on. That's a substantive issue. That's an issue that Buttigieg has not been able to address. But it's much easier to stick to the silly stereotype that black people are emotional voters. And we're not really focused on the issues than it is to really drill down and understand, hey, we look at stuff like everybody else does. Our history in this country gives us a different lens through which to view America. Our experience in this country gives us a different analysis of the data. But we're not just nonsensical, silly, emotional people that can be swayed by the shiniest trinket of the moment.
We're talking with Dr. Wilbur J. Leon here, the third on the pad, 646-929-0130, the number to get in touch with us. If you have a question, hit us up here on the phone. Hit us up on Facebook at Pad Nation with your questions and comments, or on Twitter at Pad Nation 2. With that, I go to my good friend, and colleague Reggie Howell. Good evening.
Gentlemen, good evening. Can you hear me okay?
Hear you just fine, Reg.
All right. Doc, I enjoyed your conversation with former Governor Wilder this weekend. Did that one in moment, didn't you, brother?
Hey man, thank you very much. I thought that was really, really strong analysis by Governor Wilder.
Can you talk a little bit about that conversation, the follow-up, if I may?
It's not my show. You gotta ask LA.
Come on, don't even try it, Doc. Don't even try it. You just give us a little tidbit of what you talked about. Come on, bro. Don't be that way. You starting to sound like Herman Cain. 999.
Yeah, it's fine. Go ahead. Absolutely.
You there, Doc?
What you got? Yeah. What you got? What's your question?
Yeah, no, just an overall view of the conversation with former Governor Wilder, because I think he made some strong conversations with the Democratic Party.
Oh, I'm sorry. Okay, well, the governor came on my Sirius XM show and was talking about the fact that Virginia is now a solidly blue state, and that you really have to look at the movement of people from urban areas to suburban areas, and that one of the critical things I thought that Governor Wilder pointed out was that you're hearing a lot of discussion about suburban politics versus rural politics, and he said it's not as simple as a geographic analysis, that it's people that have moved from urban areas into suburban areas, and the reality of their politics is changing. It's not the fact that they simply live in the suburbs. It's the fact that their realities are changing as the economy is having a serious impact on them, and that they are voting their pocketbooks, they are voting their health care, they are voting their education. And the funding of these issues, more so than just trying to paint it as some type of geographic discussion of rural versus suburban or ex-urban or urban, that these are real people that are having real issues, that are having real concerns, and it's now being reflected in their voting patterns. And so I thought that was a very, very insightful analysis from the former governor.
Just to follow up the conversation you had about Tom Perez, Nancy Pelosi, and also the conservative wing of the Democratic Party. Let's talk about what the Democrats need to do as far as messaging. Because what I've seen that they do not have.
Wait. I'm sorry. Say that again. With the Democrats, I didn't quite catch that.
I'm sorry. Can you hear me okay, Doc?
Yeah, it's better. Say that again.
Okay. Yeah, like I say, in my opinion, the Democrats don't have that single issue. Unfortunately, like build the wall, no new car tax. You know, with President Obama, it was, I guess, change is coming. You know, to me, they need to have a single "keep it stupid" slogan to grab people to motivate them. And right now, I don't see them doing anything but to motivate anybody.
Well, I think they have plenty of issues, and they can start with. They can pick 5 things that Donald Trump ran on and promised that he has failed to deliver. They could start there, and then they could explain why. But the issue has to be they cannot campaign against something. They have to campaign on and for something. So, for example, they can say Donald Trump told you that he was going to bring jobs back to this country. He hasn't. Here's why. Now, let us explain to you what we're going to do. Donald Trump told you that he was going to strike, that he was going to bring China to the table, and that he was going to be able to reach an agreement on a trade deal with China in weeks. He said this was going to be very simple. Well, he has failed. Here's why. Now, here's what we're going to do. Donald Trump told you that he was going to bring an end to these ridiculous wars. Well, he hasn't. Look at what he's doing in Venezuela. Look at what's going on in Yemen. Look at what he's doing in Syria. He told you it's all about the oil. And by the way, that's a war crime as defined by the International Criminal Court and by the UN. Now let us explain to you what we're going to do. So that, this math is not that difficult. Donald Trump is campaigning on this wonderful so-called economy. Well, let us explain to you what's really going on in the economy right now. Bank of America is doing well. IBM is doing well. Apple is doing well. But how does all of that translate into your everyday life? When you look at your quality of life, how much are you paying for milk? How much are you paying for bread? How much are you paying for gasoline? Are you able to buy that new home you wanted to buy? Are you working 2 or 3 jobs just to maintain your quality, your standard of living? See, these are the things that are very, very simple. In my humble opinion, these are things that are very, very simple for the Democrats to lay out to the American people. I don't think they're smart enough. I don't think they're smart enough to do it.
Thank you, sir. Great point.
I don't think they're smart enough to do it.
Yeah, and Doc, I got a question from the email question that talks about Elizabeth Warren and her health care agenda, if you will, and talked about the person who was saying that it's unrealistic. How much is that going to hurt? I would say how much will it hurt? Period. If it will hurt Democrats moving forward, and I guess the follow up on that is that you just pointed out some stuff about how Democrats can bring out stuff about Trump rather than seemingly attack each other. So with the question from the emailer about her Medicaid for all and knocking people off their own health care now, how and if that's damaging, and why not talk about what the Trump administration is doing, which is they're in court trying to get rid of Obamacare. They're stripping people from their health care now. They are trying to do all these different things for people with pre-existing issues in terms of their medical needs. People don't know that, and Democrats are not talking about that. So should they be focused more on that rather than going after Elizabeth Warren on her health care agenda?
I think Elizabeth Warren is making a mistake in her Medicaid for all and talking about taking people off of their current health care. I'm happy with the health care that I have right now. Am I paying more for it than I want to? I am. But I'm happy with what I have. So what she should be talking about is a phased approach about the objective over time is to move to a single payer plan where everybody in the country is covered by the same program. But that's something that's a goal or an objective that we are working towards.
Can I just say real quick to you, Doc, what you said in some cases, in some people's minds, at least on her camp and on that, and those who believe in what she's saying, doesn't make sense. You just said you're happy with your health care. If I'm paying, am I paying more? Probably. So you're paying more, but you're happy with your health care. So think about that, what you just said. Like, you're happy with what you have. You might be paying more, but you're happy with what you have. So that for her, and I guess that camp and that understanding, and people who believe in what she's saying, doesn't make any sense. Because how could you be happy with your health care, but you're paying more than you should be paying at the same time?
Because there's a difference between, I'm talking about quality and peace of mind. And I am willing to pay more for better, in understanding that I don't have any question when a medical issue arises with myself or with my family, and I know that I can go to the hospital closest to me and get it taken care of, and it's not going to break the bank in the process. And see, here's the thing. When Elizabeth Warren talks about taking people, doing away with private health care, that's the same problem Barack Obama had, Senator Barack Obama had with the single-payer program. Was that when he became president, the insurance companies stepped to him real hard, real quick, and said, look, dude, we ain't going for that. We're going to sink you faster than the Titanic. If you think you're going to come up here and dislodge Aetna, dislodge Blue Cross Blue Shield, you think you're going to do that, dude? You're tripping. So what she needs to do, in my opinion, is find a more sensible common ground. We will work towards single payer. We will work towards Medicare for all. But in the process of us getting there, here's how we get there. In the next 4 years, the first 4 years of my administration, this is what we're going to do. The first thing is, let's be sure that we can provide quality health care for those, what is it? How many hundreds of thousands of people are still uncovered? Look, that's one of the things. That's one of the things that sunk Matt Bevin in Kentucky, the governor of Kentucky that lost the race in Kentucky. Other than his being an utter jerk and nobody in Kentucky liking him, one of the things that sunk him were those white coal miners in southeastern Kentucky that got the Affordable Care Act under President Obama, who had never had health care before. And then Matt Bevin comes in talking about he wants to make them work for their benefit, and he wants to undo the health care that they got. That's one of the things that cost him the election. So it's incredibly aggressive, I believe, and unrealistic for Elizabeth Warren to say that that is what she's going to do immediately. Aetna isn't going for that. Blue Cross Blue Shield isn't going to go for that. So I think she needs to throttle it back a little bit, make some adjustments so that she can show a phased-in approach. Over the next 10 years, this is how I see us doing this. The first thing we're going to do, we're going to get Medicaid for all of those folks that are currently uninsured, or or if you have private insurance, but you're paying too much for it, and you don't really like what you're paying for, you can jump on it as well.
Well, I think.
Go ahead.
Go ahead. No, go ahead.
No,
you're talking.
And how are we going to pay for this? Well, those of you that have it and are getting contributions from your employer, we're going to have your employer pay into the Medicaid system as opposed to paying into the private system. And we're going to start cutting back on this military budget because we are wasting billions and billions and billions of dollars on weapons programs that are unnecessary. And we can fund this with no problem if we really start to deal with the military budget in a more realistic manner. And I know there are a whole bunch of people that are going to talk about being soft on defense. That's just a red herring. That's more idiocy. And that's the narrative that is being put forth by the Lockheed Martins of the world and their lobbyists, and the McDonnell Douglases of the world and their lobbyists, and the GEs of the world and the Raytheons and their lobbyists. That's just them trying to convince you that they need to be able to continue to have their hands in the public coffers, taking your tax dollars on weapons programs that are just utterly nonsensical, not making you any safer, and ridiculous. What would you rather have, a cure for cancer or another Tomahawk cruise missile?
Well, I think the answer is in the beholding of the person who of the party lines and people who are conservative and hawkish and all of those things. But I will say, before I get to my last question, is that the two people you mentioned, and Elizabeth Warren and Barack Obama, are, one a man of color and the other one a woman, and I think that plays into the deniability of what people think can happen when it comes to health care. Having said that, it's going to be interesting how she can, if she walks it back, how she walks it back, and how she can, make it work, as you're saying, because she put it out there, and she's being attacked. She's doubling down and tripling down on it, and still haven't really said how it's going to be paid for. So that's going to be something that I think is going to she's either going to sink or swim in that regard for her candidacy. You mentioned Kentucky, Doc, and this once again, Donald Trump goes out to Kentucky. He goes out to Mississippi. Kentucky Democrats that they win the governorship. Didn't do so well down ballot in some other situations there in Kentucky. Mississippi, of course, held their seat there. We've seen in Alabama, the Alabama LSU game, the Alabamians there at the game and cheering on Trump and whatever, and Trump taking credit for certain situations. We even seen in Pennsylvania that as though in Pittsburgh, in particular, some places where Pittsburgh did well democratically, they didn't do so well in parts of their legislative at the state level. So my final question to you, and it was something that someone asked me, and I'm asking you because I don't know, was this another blue wave, or was this just a sense that in this particular place, say in Kentucky in particular, that Democrats were kind of swaying blue a little bit in Kentucky? Maybe Kentucky's a lot more blue than Mississippi, but is it a blue wave, or was just an aberration of where it was going in terms of the governorship, especially with this particular governor who wasn't popular anyway.
Well, in Kentucky, it had more to do with Bevin, as I said earlier, was just a straight-up jerk. And a very unpopular guy. And he took on the teachers, which was a big mistake.
Yeah.
He took on other civil servants and their pensions, which was a big mistake. But he was running on policies that a lot of conservatives love to promote. Pensions, cutting into pensions, doing away with health care. He didn't do himself well by dropping the sister off the ticket. That didn't help him out any. So all of those things are very clear. He's an idiot, and he said some stupid things. He did some stupid things. But at the end of the day, what I also think is very important to factor into the equation, Donald Trump went down there and campaigned for him and lost. That shows you vulnerability. That shows you that Donald Trump's coattails are not as long and not as thick as everybody wants to make them out to be. And that if you go in swinging and you've got some things to stand on, and you stand on them and you articulate them, you can expose Donald Trump for the fool that he is. Now in Mississippi, what you had was a Democrat. You had a pro-life, pro-gun Democrat. What in the world is that? That's like a unicorn. And he turned off. See, I haven't had a chance to sit and look at the data, but I did have some African-American voters from Mississippi call into my show and explain to me that he did what the Democrats nationally continue to do. They continue to focus on white male voters. And they continue to be very, very concerned about being so sensitive about the sensibilities of white male voters. So if he had run as a true Democrat on the issues that Democrats run on, and not been so afraid about alienating white people by focusing on the issues of African Americans in Mississippi, he may very well have won that election. Because he turned off more African American voters than the white people that he was trying to salvage.
Mm-hmm.
So I haven't looked at the data. That's my opinion. But I had a couple of people from Mississippi a couple of black people from Mississippi tell me that a lot of black voters in Mississippi stayed home because they didn't really see a difference between him and the Republican that won. And had he articulated issues that were really critical to the black community in Mississippi, and those issues aren't unique to the black community. Everybody wants health care. Everybody wants education for their children. Everybody wants a better job. Everybody wants to retire in comfort. That's not unique to black people. But basically, this is what it is. He ran not to lose instead of running to win.
Mm.
And final point on this. When you hear Nancy Pelosi and Chuck Schumer and Tom Perez and others talk about electability, that, in my opinion, is code language for not wanting to violate the sensibilities of white voters.
That's right.
That's what that means. Oh, Elizabeth Warren isn't electable. Oh, Bernie isn't electable. What that's saying is the issues that they're running on are contrary to the sensibilities of the white ruling elite in the Democratic Party. That because when you look at the numbers that I have seen, what Bernie's championing and what Elizabeth Warren is championing is resonating with the majority of people in the Democratic Party.
Right, and with Elizabeth in particular, she always talks about giving back and helping HBCUs, and that's just not
right.
White folks ain't trying to do that. Not the elite. And I'm glad you, Doc, I'm glad you're saying the elite and the Democrats, because this notion of white Republicans being elite and Democrats being all these liberals and umbrella and all this stuff. The Democrats on the elite Democratic white people are just as bad, if not worse, of the elite Republicans that do the same thing. And she talks about helping HBCUs and you know, because she wants to help black folks, oh, she's way out of the norm. Well, we can't elect her. She's not electable. Not electable at all. To your point.
So what that and that's a great example to prove my point, because Democrats understand. Democratic elites understand they can't win without us.
That's right.
But they criticize Elizabeth Warren for articulating the issues that resonate with us.
Yep.
That's bad math. That's bad math. That's telling me that 1 + 1 = 3. No. And what's happening, and it's been eroding over time. But what's happening now is that bad math is starting to catch up with the Tom Perez's and the Nancy Pelosi's and that bad math is starting to catch up with them, just as Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez, the woman that they said could not win. That's the math. Ask Stacey Abrams, who would be the governor of Georgia if they hadn't been allowed to steal that election.
That's right.
See, that's what they're running from. That's what they're running from.
Yeah.
They're scared. They're running scared.
That's right. They're real scared. They're scared. Doc, we got to get out of here. I get to Coach Wilson, man. but before you go, let people know how they can reach out to you and find your book too, sir.
WilmerLeon.com. Go to WilmerLeon.com. That gets you everywhere you need to be. WilmerLeon.com. You can email me from there. You can order the book from there. You'll get an autographed copy of the book, Politics, Another Perspective, if you go to WilmerLeon.com.
You the man. Appreciate your house call as always, sir. God bless. Be well.
I know the man. I'm the man sitting next to the man. Later.
Thanks, Doc. Dr. Wilbur J. Leon III, of course, syndicated talk show host. He's a best-selling author and always good to have him on. He is a political scientist, too. We're going to take a break, come back, and get Damon Wilson on. He is the head football coach of Bowie State. Switch gears there. I want to ask him about this upcoming matchup against Fayetteville State. This season, unblemished, very unblemished, very perfect looking good. It's always good to have Coach Wilson on and talk about that and some other stuff with him on the Past State Show. Thanks to Dr. Wilbur J. Leon for joining us, of course, as we transition to HBCU football. And always good to have on the head football coach of Bowie State Bulldogs getting ready for the CIAA championship. He is Damon Wilson. And And, Coach, always good to have you on, sir. Thank you for coming on.
Yes, sir. It's always good. I'm glad you invited me on again.
Coach, I mean, look, before we get to this matchup with Fayetteville State, the one thing about your team is that you over time you don't seem to have this moment where you overlook an opponent. And, you know, with all due respect to Elizabeth City State, you know, they've had a tough year, to say the least. But this was not a letdown game for you guys. You dropped 60 on them. So talk about that how you continue to motivate your kids, knowing that you're undefeated, knowing that they want to pull off an upset and mess up the apple cart for you, yet your kids are ready to play. And, you know, you weren't not only you weren't ready to play, again, you dropped 60 points on these guys.
To be honest, when you have a coaching staff like I have and a senior-led group like I have, it's pretty easy. These guys, man, our coaches, man, they coach the guys every day to win the day. No matter who we're playing against, we're competing against ourselves, and the guys buy into it. And our seniors do a great job leading the younger guys. You know, so for me as a head coach, I'm pretty much just the CEO and the manager of the organization, but our assistant coaches are doing an outstanding job along with our seniors and the other leaders on our team.
Talk about some of those seniors because and some of those upperclassmen that have really done well. I mean, you've had guys who've gone on to the highest next level, but how special is this team this year that you're 10-0 and you're playing for yet another conference title?
Well, this team we have 24 seniors on the team this year, and last year we had 22 seniors that graduated. And out of these 24 seniors this year, 10 of them are in graduate school receiving their master's. So, you know, this is a educated group that understands the importance of getting a good quality education and also believes in supporting and developing the younger guys. You have a guy like Leke who's been in our program 5 years. He missed the first 4 or 5 games because of injury, but came right back in and picked up right where he left off. He's a guy that's really doing a good job leading the guys on the defensive side of the ball, along with William Flowers on the back end and the secondary. And offensively, Chris Witzman and John Robinson, our 2 senior offensive linemen, started doing a good job. You know, they're holding the guys accountable. They're holding themselves accountable. They're coming to me as a coach. We meet every Tuesday with the captains, and they come to me with suggestions and recommendations. And it gives me a good opportunity to learn the pulse of our football team. So it may be something, you know, last week they said, Coach, hey, we need to do something different on Sunday. Instead of running champions, we need yoga. So I had a person in yesterday to do yoga with the team. I mean, things like that really helps your team and gets them to understand that it's their team. I'm just the guy that's in the front of it, but I want to make sure that I'm giving them what they need to get them a chance to be successful.
Talking with Damian Wilson, of course, he is the head football coach at Bowie State here on the pad. Before I get to some other questions, dear Coach, I have to ask you before we get into the championship and keys to the game and thing. I have some questions of Reggie and some other people on the line there. Willie Taggart, coach at the HBCU level, of course. You know, coach at Florida State, recently relieved of his duties there. Not even a full 2 years. And, you know, my thing, Coach, is that you give a coach 4 years at least. Let him bring in his recruits. Let him do what he needs to bring in, black, white, or otherwise. If he doesn't get it done, then you can relieve him of his duties. Not the same sort of standard when it comes to black coaches, in my opinion. This is me speaking. in that regard. And certainly when you get to that level, they buy him out. There was some rumors about how some alum got up the money to buy him out. Whatever, they're buying him out, and he's gone. The cupboard wasn't filled, if you will, when Jimbo Fisher left Florida State and when Coach came in. So my question to you is, again, is there a double standard when it comes to African American coaches? If Maryland called you, or Howard even, which is an HBCU at a different level, called you, or someone in that area or something there, how do you respond to that? And what are your demands? Because you should have the demands, because you see these instances where, black coaches are not getting the opportunities to be successful. They're put in places to fail, in my opinion. So how would you respond to that? And what do you think? How do you think Florida State kind of handled that whole thing there?
Well, we all know it's a production-driven business, but at the end of the day, you have to give a coach and whomever, like whatever color a coach is, an opportunity to be successful. If you look at the big picture, you're looking at recruiting 18-year-olds, and you don't know what type of foundation they have when they come into your program. So if it's a young man that may not be where he needs to be, whether it's a football IQ or just overall work ethic, and he's in your program, you really got 4 years to impact that young man's life. So you can, of course, help him matriculate in the classroom, but also get him to play at the level that you want him to play it on the football field. And for a guy to only have a year and a half, that's unfair. That's unfair. The good thing about it, like you said, they had a buyout in that contract, so financially, he's going to be in good shape, which you don't see at the lower level, that type of financial impact when they get rid of a coach so early. So the good thing about it from a financial standpoint, Coach Taz will be in great shape. But from his coaching career and his name, I don't think it was fair. But this, like I said, it's a production driven business. But I don't think it's fair to the young men. That's one thing that I think gets overlooked when you bring in a new coach and you're bringing in a new mindset, you're bringing in a new philosophy. And now there's these players that have 4 years to kind of maximize their potential. They're learning a new system. So that's not fair to the young man either when you make these changes so abruptly.
Yeah, and I think that's what that's how it really boiled down with Coach, unfortunately. But like you said, at the end of the rainbow, at least the end of the rainbow, he and his family will be well taken care of, and then hopefully his name won't be tarnished. Well, he'll get more opportunities to coach at whatever level he decides that he wants to pursue. Talking with Damian Wilson of Kels, he is the head football coach of Bowie State here on the pad. 646-929-0130. The number to get in touch with us, press 1 to get on the line. I have some questions we'll get to, Coach, but I want to bring in my good friend and co-host, Reggie Howell, with some questions. Go ahead, Reggie.
The champ is here. The champ is here. What's up, Coach?
How you doing, Reggie?
My man. Ain't nothing changing dates on the calendar, Coach. I said, my man. I could just cry. I could cry because, Coach, I remember being in Durham, North Carolina, and that freshman quarterback hurt himself, and you were a class act. I know you were disappointed in the loss.
Right.
But fast forward to now, I could say, that's my man. The champ is here.
and Reggie, the funny part about it is that freshman quarterback is on my staff now.
Oh, Coach, I told you last year I'm going to see you in Salem, and I know that you guys are going to handle your business and win. And like I pulled you to the side this time, I smiled. I said, I ain't got to say nothing. I know what the deal is going to be. But, I mean, Coach, I was at the Virginia State and Bowie game, but, hey, I had to be low-key because that was a very intense physical game. You nodded at me, I nodded at you, and we know what time it was. And I had to say, Coach, this team, I thought last year you had Rough Riders, but these boys are better than last year's team. I see this team. I told the people at Union and State, when Union came up to Bowie, I said, son, y'all might have a squad up there, but Bowie wants y'all ass. They got tired of hearing about Hampton, got tired of hearing about how great Union is, and y'all the defending champs. They said, what kind of mess is this? But seriously, Coach, on a serious note, I just want to commend you and your staff. We're going to see each other Saturday. Got my press pass. And, again, I want to thank you for allowing me to be a part of it. Shout out on Facebook. You are the HBU National Champions from Dr. Cavell. He still got that trophy coming. I told him, look, Negro, this has been a year waiting. Where is that? Hopefully he can give it to me Friday. But one way we're going to get it to you guys, and I'll see you Coach of the Year. But, Coach, what do you do in order to keep these young men at an even keel? Because they know that they can do it, but to get the young men to actually buy into it and execute without reading the press clippings, what do you do to get the young men to really understand what time it is?
Hey, Reg, I keep saying it. I think I think it's been overlooked. This class is special. These guys are special. The upperclassmen, they're doing a great job of doing it themselves. I think they do something once a week. But at the end of the day, like I told them, I said, guys, this is your team. I'm just a football coach on paper, but this is your team. We want to go as far as you guys want to go. And here's the blueprint. It's already been laid. Just follow the blueprint. And if they don't want to follow the blueprint, we get them out of our program.
That's really just as simple.
And so, these guys are having fun. That's one thing that they're not caught up in the social media hype or even going 10-0. They're trying to go 1-0 each day. And these guys are just having fun playing together. And it's really a joy to see.
Well, I just got to say, Coach Lou Anderson is so damn proud of you. Excuse my French, Ellie. I'm sorry. Coach Mike London is so proud of you. I mean, all the coaching, and when I talked to them off the record, they said, man, and we even got to see Coach Wilson smile. He was in shock. I took a picture of that. I said, people couldn't believe it. They said, Coach Wilson smile. Ain't no way. Anyway, I said, I got the picture right here. I'm going to see you Saturday, Coach. And I'm saying right now, we'll be seeing your interview saying, how about them Bulldogs?
I appreciate
it, Reg. Yeah. Coach, I did get a question from the email bag that asked about weaknesses, any concerns, and before you get into breaking down the game, but the emailer is asking concerns going into this championship game.
Yeah, as far as defensively, we got to stop the running game. They have a very good running game with Stevie Green. This guy can run the football. We played against him last couple of years, whether it's regular season and or championship. And the offensive lines are very physical up front. So we must stop the run defensively. And offensively for us, we have to run the ball a little better. Jerome is doing a good job spreading it around when opportunities present themselves. We still have some things that we had to correct on film from Elizabeth City's game as far as making certain calls and changing the play versus certain looks. But if we do those things, I think we'll be in good shape and play sound special teams. Those guys have a good kicking game. They have some returners back there that can make it a game changers. So once again, we have to do some things, clean up some things, give us an opportunity to be successful.
John, who is a Bulldog alum, said, how healthy are you going into this game?
To be quite honest, we're pretty healthy. We lost our one of our better defensive players back probably 4 weeks ago to a season-ending injury. But outside of that, we're pretty much healthy. We have little nicks and bruises like everybody else at this time of year. But I think we're hitting this game with guns loaded.
Marshawn, I guess, it doesn't say he's a Bowie State alum, but says that with your success, how many offers are you getting? I think it's a little personal, so I guess we could rephrase that and says that how how do you deal with those offers, Coach? When you're successful like that, I mean, you'll have the Mike Londons, you'll have the Willie Taggers, you'll have the situations like you're in where you'll be successful and assuming that you win. So how do you? I guess I will rephrase it for how do you handle those type of things?
Well, I mean, it's a great situation to be in. When you're having success, opportunities are going to present themselves. But then you got to ask yourself, why are you in this? What are you in this for? What opportunities may make sense? Is everything being taken care of at home? I'm in a great situation at Bowie State. I'm an alumnus of the university. My family's here in Maryland. We're building something special. So as long as needs are getting met, you don't entertain them. If it's something that you want to entertain, you'll listen. But like at the end of the day, I'm a big believer in talking things over with my wife, praying about it, and then making a decision and going from there. But at the end of the day, it's a great situation to be in. There are a number of coaches right now just trying to make sure they have a job tomorrow. But to have other opportunities present themselves is a humbling experience. But at the end of the day, I love where I'm at, and we're getting a lot of positive things done right now.
Chris asked about the CIAA coming to Baltimore. How does that help you in recruiting?
I think that's going to be major for us in recruiting because now we're going to be able to show some of the local football recruits what the CIAA was built upon. It's a basketball conference, and they're going to see the CIAA at its brightest moment right now, backyard. It's going to educate a lot of the local people who may not have attended CIAA football or basketball game, give them an opportunity to do that, along with raise some revenue for the local area. So I think it's really going to help us in recruiting because the CIAA does a great job laying out the red carpet for the basketball tournament. So for us to have the opportunity to build upon that in football, I think it's going to be great, and it'll be great going into that next football season after they experience the CIAA tournament in Baltimore.
And Jason asked, I guess it's a similar question. I don't know if they know each other, but with recruiting, he's saying how big is it if you win the championship for recruiting, CIAA championship?
It's major. I mean, guys want to come to winning programs. And one thing about our program, we have reference points now. When I first got the job, I was talking about doing some of the things that we are accomplishing now. But being as though we have actually already been there a number of times and won the game, now we have reference points. And now today's generation believe in things that they can actually see. They're not looking at jumping on something just to try to get to a point. They want to go there, and you're kind of already there, so they can go back. So I think that's a great avenue for recruiting, and as well as raising dollars. So we still need to get our scholarship dollars to where they need to be successful nationally. I really want to win a national championship at Bowie State University, and we need to continue to raise funds so we can get there financially. I want to build a new stadium at Bowie State University, and it's some things that I mentioned a couple of years ago, and I think people looked at me crazy. But I have a plan, and I have a vision, and I want to do anything possible to make sure we stick to what we set out to do.
So, Coach, you're looking at this game. You kind of gave the keys, but we could break this down a little bit more. I mean, look, you're coming off a game, again, with respect, and I knew you have respect for the Vikings, Elizabeth City State, but 60-21. I mean, you had almost 500 yards of total offense, almost 300 yards in passing. I mean, a ton of first downs. You were perfect on fourth down. I mean, everything. The only thing they had is time possession, but that kind of goes with the stats and how possessions go, and if you way down, that kind of thing. So when you look at that and you're going into this game, and I mentioned earlier this year, and I mentioned it to you in the past, and how the Northern Division and the Southern Division is looked at. Winston and Fayetteville State typically lately have been the two teams have been representing in the South, and then you and the Virginia teams have been kind of representing the North. But break down this Fayetteville State team, because a lot of people don't give them a chance to beat you, right? And a lot of us, on and off the air, have said probably not. But break down some of the other elements that could go wrong that you need to make sure that you're ready for to bring home this title. And then what do you see, hypothetically, you guys winning, what do you see you in the playoffs and moving forward?
Well, one thing that I think is getting overlooked is Coach Hayes has been the head coach at Fayetteville for 3 years. He's been in the championship 3 years in a row. That alone lets you know that he knows what he's doing. And he has the right people in place to make plays when it matters. So we really have to focus on our game. We have to focus on making sure that we correct. Like I said, we left a lot of plays on the field last week. And that's one thing. What we did this past week, we didn't watch the whole game against Elizabeth City. We pulled out maybe the top 15 to 20 plays that we made mistakes and used that as teacher film for offense and defense. So we spent an hour and a half watching mistakes versus watching touchdowns. And that's one thing that really helps us. It helps keep the guys humble, but at the same time, it lets them know a standard is the standard. And just because you score 60 points and you hold the other team to 20 points does not mean you played the perfect football game. So we point out the things that they did wrong, and so we can correct those for this upcoming week. Because in order to win championships, we cannot make some of those same mistakes. We had a muff PAT. We missed the extra point. Those things are unacceptable. We kicked the ball on kickoff, kicked it out of bounds. Those things are unacceptable when you're talking about winning championships. So once again, we have to focus on getting better in-house, and then we'll turn the focus onto our opponent. But we also want to respect everybody we play. Like I said, Fayetteville State is a very good football team. They're physical up front, offensive line-wise. They have two good running backs that I think either one could be the starter. And defensively, they're attacking. The defensive line is big up front. Secondary, they're going to fly around with a lot of energy. So, we must come in and be ready to play Bowie State football for 4 quarters to have a chance for the game. And with regard to the playoffs, I haven't gotten there yet. I think we moved up a couple slots this week, which is great. I mean, when you're talking about being ranked in the AFCA poll, number 11 out of 168 teams, that's great in itself. But we'll deal with that after we take care of this weekend's challenge, and then Sunday find out where we fall in blind in the playoffs, and if we're hosting a game, if we're on the road, we'll deal with that on Sunday. But right now, it is a great honor just to be in the top 15 in the country right now.
Coach, listen, the best of luck on Saturday. We had a conversation off air, and of course, in the playoffs, and keep doing what you're doing, Coach. We appreciate you. We love having you on, and we'd love to get you on next week if possible. I'll talk with Greg and so we get that done. But go Bulldogs, and best of luck in Salem this weekend.
Hey, once again, thanks for having me on, and you guys keep doing what you're doing, making a major impact in ECCU football for sure.
Thank you, sir. Appreciate you.
Sir,
be well.
Yes,
all right. Sir. Damon Wilson, of course, he is the head football coach at Bowie State here on the Batchelor News Radio Show. We're going to take a break, come back, and get our next guest on, and, of course, talk with Reggie Howell and others on the past. Stay tuned.
The soul of a woman. The soul of a woman. Whoa. Nothing like the soul of a woman.
Oh, no, 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 no. It's such a strong connection, unlike anything I ever seen. Feels like the right direction. 'Cause you're next to me, love you next to me. The warmth of your affection, I feel it washing over me. You got all my attention. 'Cause you're next to me, love you next to me. And baby, your love is so divine. It's just like paradise. And it's the beauty so divine. nothing like the soul of a woman. Nothing like the soul of a woman. Oh no, no. No, I don't have to ask her. You give me everything I ever need. I'm like a man on a mission. Whoa, whoa. Sometimes I make you mad, we may fuss and fight, but no matter what, we still kiss goodnight. I sleep better when you're in my arms. Oh, oh yeah. 'Cause baby, your love is so divine. It's just like paradise. And it's the beauty of desire. Girl, you give me life. Ain't nothing like the soul of a woman. No, 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 no. Keep on going when you feel like giving up. Yeah. That's my baby. My baby. Ain't nothing like the soul of a woman. Yeah. Ain't got nothing make you feel like a million bucks. Like a million bucks. That's my baby. Baby. This is my dedication to the one I love. This is my, oh baby, yeah. This is my dedication to the one I love. This is my, yeah. Like the soul of a woman to make you keep on going when you feel like giving up. No matter what I'm going through. That's my baby, my baby, my baby, my baby. Ain't nothing like the soul of a woman. Yeah, ain't got nothing make you feel like a million bucks. That's my baby, that's my girl, my baby, my girl. Ain't nothing like the soul of a woman. That's mine, that's mine, that's mine. Oh, oh, that's mine. No, 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 no. Nothing, baby, that makes me feel so good. Baby, baby.
Welcome back to the show. Thank you to all of our guests, Dr. Wilbur J. Leon, and of course we also spoke to our good friend talking some sports with us as well on the Batchelor News show. Damon Wilson, the head football coach at Bowie State. I want to bring in my next guest. Always good to have him on. He is one of the most respected reporters in Tennessee, and his work is impeccable. He's his work is all over the place, by the way. He is the general. He is Mike Patton, and Mike, all is well with you, I hope, and thanks for coming on, sir.
Yeah, definitely all is well, except for these temperatures driving outside, man.
Hey, man, look, I'm from Connecticut, so, consider it summertime where you are right now. And of course, I'm in North Carolina, so it's not as bad as Connecticut now, but I do get your point. Speaking of temperatures and Tennessee, the Titans are 5-5, and I don't know, Mike, if that was an impressive win or Andy Reid just kind of, and this is the theme with you tonight with my questions, but Andy Reid being a boneheaded coach. Now, they had this bad snap, and they blocked field goal, of course, at the end. But I just the personnel grouping and what Kansas City was trying to do and the penalties, which hurt, and their defense. Is this a big win for Tennessee or a bad loss for Kansas City?
It's a big win for Tennessee. They needed this win. I mean, if they didn't have this win, they probably would be doom and gloom and thinking of, nothing but 8-8 in the off season. now with this win, at least they give themselves a chance to make the playoffs. And I guess people are believing in Ryan Tannehill now with the gut he showed in terms of the 2-point conversion and the gut he showed in those throws he made to basically lead them to the winning touchdown.
Are you believing in him? Because I know you're a Mariota guy. I listen, and you and I have had this conversation on and off the air, Mike, about him and his injuries. And I said, look, he's a great talent, but he can't stay healthy. So with Tannehill there, is this a good thing for them? And is Marcus gone?
Well, I'll answer the second question first. Yes, I think Marcus is gone at the end of the season. As far as being a Mariota guy, I definitely felt he should have done better, but unfortunately it didn't work out, and it is what it is. Tannehill is the guy; he's making it happen. He so far has made all the right moves at the right times, and that's atypical of his career. If anyone's watched him in Miami, so he definitely entered that situation with a little trepidation, but at this point, he's handled his business and done what he's needed to do when the Titans have needed him to do so, and doing what Mariota hasn't been able to do, which is basically, come through in the clutch and make that big pass, that big run. As he had a couple big runs, it was a 3rd and 10, 3rd and 11 run. He ran, got hit 2 or 3 yards short of the actual first down line, and drove his way through the guy to finish and make the first down. So definitely he is showing that he wants to be the guy, and he's deserving right now of being the guy.
Yeah, and the thing is though, Mike, long term, I don't know if Tannehill's a guy. Like he wasn't in Miami, and personnel and offensive lines and different things shape a situation. So that would play into it. But I think Tennessee's got a mess. Like if they're going to get rid of Marcus, and they think Tannehill's the guy. I don't think he's a guy. So then you go into next year, and this is a league where defenses see enough on film and things change, right? And he's already been in the league. So is he the guy for this year, or is he the guy long term for this franchise?
I think he's the guy for this year. Definitely don't think he's the long-term answer. I mean, he's 31 years old.
Right.
I definitely think they're going to draft a quarterback. I definitely think they will. The smart money says they probably won't draft one in the first round, but then again, it's the Titans, and they probably will draft one in the first round. So smart money would be not to, but they probably will. And definitely they may potentially keep Tannehill here to maybe be a placeholder. That could potentially be the decision that happens.
What happens to Marcus then? Where does he go?
Honestly, I thought about that a little bit today, and we're watching a team on Monday Night Football where he could be landing next year. No, I'm not talking about the 49ers. I'm talking about the Seattle Seahawks. Can anybody tell me who their backup is?
He's a backup? Is he a backup, or he's a starter? Or are you just saying it's not a starter area for him right now?
Honestly, he could go a couple other places and potentially start. But to be honest, I think if he wants to win or be in a better environment situation, Seattle would be the place to go to learn from Russell Wilson, kind of get yourself together, and then go somewhere where maybe you could start or have the potential to start.
Sort of like a Teddy Bridgewater, but with lesser years, I guess, in
right.
that situation. Yeah. I mean, you got to take a step back sometimes, but like I said, the guy's got to stay. I like him. He's just got to stay on the field. He's got to be on the field. That's the only thing I've ever said about him, and we'll see.
Well,
what go ahead. I'm sorry.
His issue this year wasn't necessarily staying on the field. He just couldn't make the big plays happen. As far as this year, he wasn't necessarily making those things happen in the passing game, which, part of it was his fault. Part of it was not having protection either. But then again, you're the quarterback. You're going to get all the success all the praise when things happen well, and you're going to get all the blame when things aren't. So That's just how it goes.
Right, and in fairness to him, I mean, the same could be said about Green Bay and Aaron Rodgers, but he's not Aaron Rodgers, so that's the difference. Aaron Rodgers is still he makes things happen because he's Aaron Rodgers, and Marcus is not that. But talking with Mike Patton here on the show, Mike, you look at the other games, and we're doing an NFL kind of recap. Dallas and when you look at Dallas and Philly, both teams right now, and we got T-Mac and Reggie on the line. They'll be asking you questions. Dallas, I don't see the overwhelmingly talent that everybody seems to see. I see all the weapons, Dak has got on offense. I see a pressure defense, but you could make questions about the back four. But I do see the talent. But they haven't really beaten anybody, so it's a different environment for me that they're 5-4 and this guy is still the coach, as opposed to before when they didn't have as much talent and this guy is still the coach. They lose a game at home to a Minnesota team that I think Kirk Cousins is very overrated. I think he's an average quarterback at best. They got a great running back. They struggle on the offensive line sometimes. They struggle on the defensive line sometimes. Yet Minnesota went in there and won the game, a game they probably shouldn't even won with Thielen out. But what about this Dallas team? And if you had to pick between Dallas and Philly, who would win the division?
Oh man, that's like I don't know what to say about that. But as far as this Dallas team, I can say they definitely are a team that's a little confused offensively. Some of that comes with a first-year offensive coordinator. But secondly, what I can say is just I don't understand all of the things that are going on with that team offensively. I mean, offensively, they're loading up against the run. But, just give me an example. Sunday night, the wide receivers are making it happen, getting things done. But then on the fourth down play, you go with the out pattern to Ezekiel Elliott?
Yeah.
What was that?
Right.
So that just didn't make any sense to me. There's some confusion there. And, every year we seem to think the clapper has clapped his last clap on the sideline, but every year he's clapping again. So we may see him clapping again next year. Apparently Jerry loves the man, so we'll see what happens. But
it just feels different, though. It feels a little different, though, this year because they the expectations with that week schedule that they had, they really haven't outside of Philly. They really haven't played many. Of course, they play the Patriots and stuff like that. They really haven't played any real teams yet, and they're only 5-4. And I say only loosely, but they're 5-4. But they haven't really played anybody. So this year seems like that maybe it might be a little different. I've said that this guy's not going to win. They're not going to win the Super Bowl with this guy. They're not at this coach. So I mean, why not just let him go at this point and move forward?
Well, it sounds all good for logical people, but we're talking about Jerry Jones here. Jerry Jones is good for making money and things like that, not necessarily the greatest at making football decisions all the time. So, any logical person would say, yeah, it's time, it's run its course, but no, not Jerry Jones. Jerry Jones is going to stick to his guns, and he's going to continue to say whatever he says on that while the clapper is clapping on the sideline. And you did ask about Philadelphia and Dallas and who would win the division between those two. That could change from day to day because Philly is a little overrated themselves. So
right.
And they don't get any defensive backs either. So, if they don't get pressure, you may as well say it's a 7-on-7 drill with defensive backs running around one hand tied behind their back. It's instant offense every time. So I just don't. Either one of those teams, I don't trust them in the playoffs at all.
Well, I'll say this: Dallas' backside is better than Phillies, and it's really
That's
crazy
true.
that the Bears couldn't exploit that. Of course, they won this past week, but Philly's backside got some issues. Before I go to Tony T. McClain, here in Carolina, they lose a game at Green Bay. Some people said that McCaffrey scored. Some people did. But the bottom line is they lost a tough road game. And the problem with Carolina, it seems for me, Mike, is that they can't stop the run. Like and Kuechly has got these injuries, and I think he's kind of not overrated, but kind of getting a little older in terms of those injuries. I just think that they had a gift with the Saints losing to a horrible Atlanta team, but they blew it in Green Bay, albeit it's tough to win in Lambeau. But talk about this Carolina team. Cam is gone. Will he be back? And will he be traded? Where you think he's going? And again, their defense is it could be really good, but they get gashed on the running game.
Well, I will say this: the Carolina Panthers, they do have solid pieces all up and through there, but you would think that McCoy would bring more in the running game, stopping the running game, but you got to also think he's a little older in his career, so he can't necessarily do the things he would usually do at that point. So, that's an issue that they haven't solved. And you would think with him and Dontari Poe, they would be much better against the run, but apparently they're not, and people are running right at them, and that's an issue. And not only is it an issue with Luke Kuechly back there, linebacker, but where is Shaq Thompson? Shaq Thompson, I mean, you're the young man in this linebacker core in terms of the inside linebackers, but you're not getting it done. So that's an issue in itself. As far as the Carolina Panthers, honestly, I didn't expect a ton out of them this year. So they're actually defying my expectations, and surely Christian McCaffrey has defied my expectations. I didn't expect him to be I didn't expect him to be as great as he's been this year. If he isn't as great as he's been this year, then they have a worse record than what they have now. But, I just don't think it's sustainable for him to do as much as he's doing, especially over multiple years. And honestly, I don't see them making the playoffs. Maybe win 8 games this year. That's about it. And as far as Cam, I actually talked to someone that knows Cam pretty good about 3 or 4 weeks ago when Cam was injured, at that point, and before the talk about him not coming back, and he actually said that Cam probably shouldn't come back there next year. And he also said that he feels like it's ran its course between him and the actual city. So, I don't see Cam being back there next year. There's rumors about Chicago and all those type of things, but we'll see what happens. Nobody knows what's going to happen. I could see Chicago, but I just don't know what's going to happen or where he could go. Who knows? He could be in Tampa Bay next year. Who knows?
Well, they've mentioned Denver. I'd like to see him in black and gold, to be honest with you. And living here in Carolina, and I've told Carolina fans and not Carolina fans, they don't like him. It's partly racial, it's partly whatever, but they don't like. There's a group of fans here, Mike, that does not like this man. Is as evident in their Super Bowl run, where I ran into some fans that said that they wanted Denver to shove that football up his what. And these are these are Panther fans that were rooting against him. So the run his course is just is a nice way of saying that there are a lot of people here, and he does really good things on and off the field for the Panthers, on and off. and people could say things about maturity and all this other stuff, whatever. End of the day, he's a Super Bowl. He's an MVP, and he got his team to the Super Bowl. But this is the Bible Belt. They don't like all that. They like this kid Allen and whatever. And you be careful what you ask for. Because as you know, Mike, you know better than I am. You cover the NFL closer than I am. All they need is some film on this kid, and then it might be a whole different thing. So, this kid playing well now, next year with the film, you know how the NFL is, they'll be coming up with different schemes to take care of him. So, we'll see. I want to go to my good friend and colleague and longtime friend, Tony T. Mac McLean. Good evening, sir. Hope all is well with you, sir.
I'm good. And to answer your question, Mike, Geno Smith.
Ugh. Geno Smith, huh?
Yeah. So I'll just leave that out there to let y'all marinate on that in regards to that. But
I was thinking about Geno Steaks, man, not Geno Smith. But never mind. That's another story.
But the real question I have is now, has Penny Hardaway paid for your rent this week? That's all I really wanted to know. If that is.
I've got some interesting insight actually on that one.
You know what? I'm anxious. I'm anxious to hear it because to me this is the NCAA at its most pettiest.
Well, I can tell you what happened.
Very, very petty. I'm sorry, because I was just saying very petty.
Like,
go ahead.
Yeah, that's like a bus full of ex-girlfriends on a 24-hour on a 24/7 bus ride petty. That's how petty that is.
I can tell you what happened. Essentially, this all started back when Penny donated money to the university back in 2007. That's back when he donated money there, and unofficially he became a booster. Wiseman actually was playing on Team Penny, and he's been playing on Team Penny for a while. And Wiseman actually was in school at Ensworth High School in Nashville area. He decided to move to Memphis in like 2017 and 2018. I can't remember which year. I think it's 2018. But anyway, he decided he wanted to move to Memphis, and his family wanted to move to Memphis. Therefore, Penny comes in, helps them move with money. There we go. That's what the whole situation came about. Because the one thing that was misreported was when Wojciechowski said 2007 he paid or something. I was like, no. The kid was 8 then, so those numbers aren't right. And I knew the story, so I knew exactly what was misreported.
Well, don't let facts get in the way of slander.
But yeah, it just to me that was the wrong part of the story. But honestly, the kid never received any money. The parents received money, but the kid did. This reminds me of, when you're a kid and you grow up and you get 18, 19, 20 years old and you try to figure out why your credit's so bad, only to find out your parents put the electric bill in your name. That's what this reminds me of. That's exactly what this reminds me of. So really, he had anything to do with it, but he got to take the punishment for it because his parents took the money. And I'm like, it just doesn't add up to me. I'm like, why not go after his parents about it than him? Why him?
Well, there you go, talking logic again, and logic in the NCAA don't make sense unless they can make an example out of somebody, or unless they can get their cut. So that's the thing. And see, what's so bothersome here, Mike, is that I'm trying not to play conspiracy theory here, but Penny has done a great job in turning this program around, probably too fast for some folks' liking, and I can't help but think that this is sort of the backlash of, how dare you come in and be so damn successful, and you basically get one of the top recruits, if not the top recruit in the country, and now all of a sudden now it's like, okay, we're going to, I mean, in typical fashion, we're going to bring something back from like 8-9 years ago and have that come back and haunt you.
Well, I've got something a little different for you. The funniest thing to me is that I live 3 hours from Memphis, so I hear every conspiracy theory that I've ever heard from Memphis about how the NCAA hates Memphis. It's got you've got to see it, man. That's all I'm gonna say. You got to see it. But anyway, the one I saw that was the most interesting, it somehow tied into Calipari. That Calipari was a whistleblower, and that it was all Calipari's fault. And I'm sitting there thinking to myself, I'm like, how did Calipari get into this? But everything they to this day, people from Memphis still hate John Calipari. They still hate him.
Yeah.
Anything they talk about, anything that happens, it's Calipari's fault. That happens in Memphis. Calipari could be off in the middle of over in China hanging out.
Mm-hmm.
It's all Calipari's fault.
Right. So sort of like the Jet fans blaming everything on Todd Bowles now.
Right. Right. It cracks me up, and the thing that about Penny is the funniest thing about Penny is he actually paired Wiseman up with another guy he was recruiting, DJ Jeffries. That's another guy that he actually changed his commitment from Kentucky to Memphis. So that's where Memphis fans are getting this from and talking about that the NCAA is hating on them.
Well,
I promise,
you know
I don't make any of this stuff up. This is seriously what I've read.
Mike, you know what, Mike? Not to add to this, but now we all remember the John Chaney Calipari.
Oh yeah, I remember that.
Everything, that had everything to do with him as a recruiter when he was an assistant at Pitt, and he, let's put it this way, he has had that reputation, and he has the reputation, and he's had it for quite a while when he was an assistant and when he's been a head coach of poisoning the waters. And when let's put it this way, I'm not gonna completely go full Magilla on the Memphis fans' paranoia, but there is some truth. This way, historically, there is some truth with him. And when you think about him not getting the number one recruit in the country, I mean, I'm not saying, but I'm just saying.
But I can tell you this, man. The one thing I've actually talked to maybe a couple of people that are actually with the Kentucky program, a few things in terms of everything. Honestly, when he comes in with any of these recruits, he really doesn't have to do any of that stuff. The other stuff he was talked about in the past about, like he had to, he probably pressed a few different buttons down there in Memphis. But as far as Kentucky, I mean, the Kentucky program pretty much sells itself at this point. So he doesn't necessarily have to do this, that, and the other for them to actually be whatever. Mm-hmm. And the one thing I also heard a few different things be like, well, he actually gives it to them straight. Tells them, hey, look, you're not guaranteed to play this, that, and the other. This is what's going to happen. If you come in and you want to work hard, this may happen. Mm-hmm. That's all it's pretty much is given at this point. At this point, I can't say in the other years things didn't happen, but
sure.
I can just tell you what I know from at Kentucky.
Gotcha. All right, thank you, sir.
Yes, sir.
Mike, it's just I want to ask you real quick before I go to Reggie, your thoughts on the Willie Taggart situation and how he didn't get the time that he was allotted to build something at Florida State, and in particular, black coaches. Because, I'm a Florida State fan, and, as you know, we've talked about it, I'm not a Jimbo Fisher fan. I thought Jimbo was sort of writing on the wall, and he just left it and left that whole situation in a bad situation. So where do you think he goes, and what do you think about that whole situation?
Honestly, I think Willie Taggart's probably going to go back to the mid-level coaching football, honestly. The situation, is partly of, maybe Taggart not maybe getting through to the recruits or anything like that, or the guys that were there, and also partly him not having his time to implement his own program. We know at higher level programs, you see guys come in with other people's players and have immediate success, and that essentially has kind of ruined the timetable for coaches to come in and implement their system and have a plan for success. Unless you're coming into a doormat program or a program that's doing horrible, like i.e. Tennessee was doing horribly, and that's why Pruitt's probably getting a few more. I mean, they're playing better now, but they weren't looking like they were going to play better. So, I hated that what happened to Willie Taggart, and often a lot of times it does seem that black coaches get a shorter leash than. Well, I don't even like the word using shorter leash for black coaches, so scrap that. But anyway, they get a shorter time to actually, try to implement their program than the white counterparts, and that is truly unacceptable. I still remember the Todd Willingham mess in Notre Dame, and then the coach coming in right behind him has all that success with all his recruits. Yeah, so it just it's ridiculous. It is ridiculous, and it needs to be looked into, because I think more of these college programs are controlled by boosters than what anyone wants to let on to as well. Hello?
Hello, you there?
Yeah, I don't know if I necessarily believe that, these so-called boosters are buying out or whatever the case may be, but it is what it is. I mean, really, it's unfortunate for Coach that went down. Want to go to Reggie Howe. What say you, sir?
Hey, gentlemen. Mike, how you doing, my friend?
I'm doing all right, man. I'm waiting for your Madam Jerry Jones.
Oh, we got
slander.
Reggie, are you there?
I'm right here.
Reggie?
Yeah, I'm right here.
Yeah, we'll keep Reggie on.
I'm here.
I can hear Reggie.
Yeah, we can hear him.
There.
We can hear him.
Mike, when you look at the game the president was at, LSU, Alabama. You cover the SEC closer than anybody I know. Alabama was very non-Alabama-like. Like, they made a lot of mistakes, whether it be physically or in coaching. They didn't do things that they normally would do or normally not do in terms of making mistakes. So my question is, just like I asked you about Tennessee and Kansas City, did Alabama lose the game, or is LSU that good?
LSU is that good, period. Offensively, they are that good to me. Because looking at them, I mean, I already thought that they would put up numbers against Alabama. Contrary to the belief of many others, I thought they would come in offensively and be successful. Because if you look at Alabama's defensive backs, they like to grab and hold and do those type of things. And then you look at the linebackers for Alabama, they aren't necessarily the typical linebackers of Alabama that are experienced and are just dynamic playmakers. They're young. So I figured that Alabama would have trouble with that offense, especially with the experience that LSU has offensively. Now, of course, with Tua was rusty, and it showed. And, they definitely came out and fought in the second half. But, the damage was already done. Offensive-wise, I kind of, they were a little rusty there. But defensively, I expected LSU to put up numbers. I mean, contrary to the belief, I definitely expected LSU to put up numbers in that game.
Yeah, but you look at that game, though, with Morrow and the way he played. it was some questions about what Nick Saban did in that game, especially if you're going in the halftime, you're down I think 26-13 at that point, and you try to you try to score, and you turn the ball over, you give it to LSU, and they score right away. It wasn't very Nick Saban-like coaching in this game. Did you see that?
Well, I did see some of that, but a lot of that is he knew that his offense had to be aggressive to win that game because he knew his defense didn't have enough to make it happen. So in doing that, he did definitely change his game plan and make a few things, or try to make a few things happen that he normally wouldn't do. I don't know if you saw this either, but there were some Alabama fans asking for them to fire Nick Saban after the game.
Yeah.
That has got to be the most insane thing I've ever heard in my life.
Right.
Lose one game and now you want to fire him. It boggled my mind. I was sitting there saying to myself, I'm like, look, if y'all do want to fire him, can y'all just make a deal with Tennessee where Jeremy Pruitt goes defensive coordinator and he becomes the head coach? I'm fine with that.
Yeah, I knew you were going to say that with Tennessee. Oh my God. We'll get to some other SEC stuff. I want to go to my good friend and colleague Reggie Howell. Reggie, what say you, sir?
Yeah, gentlemen, can y'all hear me?
Yes, sir.
Yeah. Hey, Mike, NBA. It's really laughable to hear these mouth jockeys on talk radio get so bent out of shape because, oh my God, the players want to take their own destiny in hand by not playing back-to-back. They do everything they can to try to go after Kawhi Leonard. And the only thing he's doing is just smiling, collecting the check, and moving his team forward. Your thoughts on this BS about how they're so upset because certain stars don't play. Hell, if they were hurt, they wouldn't play. And also the Tennessee State men's basketball team. Seems like you kind of got like for them, but I talked to some people saying that, okay, just see what they play against the big boys and come talk to me.
Well, here's what I think about it. I mean, I don't necessarily like it because but I understand because the thing in the end is self-preservation and making money. And the thing is, Jalen Rose had a comment about players playing back to back, and you're speaking of NBA and players playing back to backs and all those things, correct?
Yeah.
Okay. So Jalen Rose said something the other day, and he said, "Well, if you honestly want to talk about it, fans have to take a hand in that too, because it started talking about the championships they won and all those type of things or whatever, and players not being able to be healthy when it counts. Definitely was that definitely was something, a perspective that I hadn't thought about, and I thought that was very interesting as well. And I think that players are playing for the rings, and when players started playing for the rings, then people got upset. Then when players were playing playing this other way, then the players went. Essentially, the fans will never be happy with what any player does, and the players like, well, look,
or talk radio.
What's that?
Or talk radio. The mouth jockeys that make their living attacking players.
Yeah, so at this point, they're like, well, look, I'm going to go get this ring. But then when I go get this ring, you're not going to be happy there either. I mean, love it or hate it, players are going to play. They judge by ring stats and things like that, and we judge them by that as fans and as media members. So they're making those moves according to, what they want to do in their career, what they want to achieve in their career. And in doing so, of course, fans and media members and people paying for tickets are getting upset. But, hey, this is what you ask for. You want players playing and healthy at the peak times of the season? This is part of it.
Yeah. Now, what about Tennessee State, the men's basketball team? What about them?
Well, I'll say this. Their team looks a little different this year. They have 9 new players. Yes, I said 9 new players. Only 2 players returning from last year on this team that actually played, and one that was a red shirt that came back that plays this year, which is 3 right there. They got a grad transfer from West Virginia, Wesley Harris. They got a transfer from Georgia Tech, and I cannot remember his last name. John Brown. Okay, John Brown. And they've got a slew of junior college players as well as they've got another 6'10" guy that's not playing. So they're starting a lineup of a 6'6" shooting guard, a 6'8" small forward, 6'8" power forward, and a 6'9" center. So
sound like an NBA lineup.
What's that?
Sound like an NBA lineup.
And the thing is, all of them can handle the basketball and shoot the three. All of them can. So the thing is with Tennessee State, as the season goes on, they'll get to know each other better and continue to grow that chemistry. And they could definitely be a dangerous team in the OVC. They lost this weekend to Chattanooga. I would say it was a really close loss. They lost by 2 points. But it was definitely better than what they did in the past, because normally if they don't shoot well, they get blown out in these type of games. But they were right there tooth and nail the entire game. So I think that bodes well for them. And tomorrow night they play Lipscomb. I'm not going to be able to attend that game, but it'll be a good game, and that'll definitely show where they need to be or where they need to go. And, of course, next Monday they play Fisk, who is coached by the immortal Kenny Anderson. So that ought to be an interesting game to watch and actually get to talk to Kenny Anderson.
Is coaching Fisk?
Yes, he is. He's coaching Fisk.
What? Get the hell out of here.
I actually met him last year.
Eat me a bacon sandwich. Unbelievable. Hey, but real quick, Lamar Jackson, man, with the NFL, I know time is short. It's amazing how everybody now, it's like he's like a joystick. He's making moves, and now a certain former general manager with the Colts, who's made nameless, clown, said he'd make a fine wide receiver. I wonder how do people think about him being a wide receiver now.
Well, he actually said he actually apologized pretty recently.
When?
He was wrong.
When did he do that? He really did that?
He actually apologized. He seriously did.
Send me that tape. I want to see that.
Yeah, I don't know if it's on tape or it's actually an article, but he definitely admitted he was wrong. But I think
he must have had a shot of Jack before he did it. It's some wild turkey.
Either that or Ryan Clark called him.
Yeah, well, him and Jerry swinging boys, so they can do it any way they want. That's a whole other 2-hour show. Sorry, Mike. I got the best on you. I had a Donald Trump moment.
Oh, man. You brought out Madam Jerry Jones. I knew it was coming.
AK Madam, there she is. Never seen a facelift he didn't like. I'm sorry, T. I'm sorry, T. Mac. I'm out the program, T.
I'm sleeping. I'm watching basketball, so I'm
I'm done.
Yeah,
Thank you.
with the Knicks. Mike, let me get some thoughts on you separately on some games coming up this week. Steelers, Browns, both teams trying to stay in the playoff hunt. Who wins that game this Thursday?
It'll be the Steelers, and the much maligned Mike Tomlin is looking like a pretty dang good coach this year. So, I wonder where all that slander went. I wonder where all that
Bradshaw won't hear
that. They won 4 straight, so he apparently must be doing something right.
Yeah, the old Klansman Bradshaw don't like that. Him and Bill Cowell, Mr. Chin.
We'll see what happens at Texans, Ravens. I mean, at this point, I'm in the camp as nobody can stop Lamar Jackson, but nobody can stop Deshaun either. So, who wins this game?
Man, the video game that is Lamar Jackson rolls on this week. Give me the Baltimore Ravens. I mean, I can't pick against Lamar Jackson. It's just hard.
Yeah, he did. I mean, that spin move. Oh my God! And then people who pick Sam Darnold and all these other people. Okay, Lamar Jackson was and is the real deal. And GM should be fired that they didn't pick him, but it is what it is. Patriots, Eagles. this is a game where both teams coming off byes and they got some time. And as I mentioned, Eagles, Cowboys, I have more comfortability, if you will, with the Eagles coaching staff over the Dallas coaching staff, with the Patriots coming off a loss.
I will say this. Eagles fans, please go get yourself a nice rag to soak up all them tears you're going to be soaking up after this game. Because it might get Bubba Sparks ugly with no defensive backs.
Ouch. Khalil Mack and that crew. With the Bears at the Rams coming off a loss to Pittsburgh, Trubisky coming off a win. Who wins that game?
That game's going to be ugly. Whoever wins that game, man, whatever offense, it's almost like you're taking two pigs and you dress them up, and whichever pig dresses up the best wins the game. So I guess I'll go with Chicago in this game. The Rams just look awful offensively. They do.
But by the way, LA, the Pig Defamation League on line 1.
Hey, you're both right. The Rams got some issues up front.
That was funny, G. That was funny.
They got some issues up front, and we'll see what happens. Chiefs at the Chargers, Mike. The Chiefs are reeling, and I've been saying this all year, and I said it last year. As great as Patrick Mahomes is, and he's arguably the best quarterback in the league, their defense stinks. They can't stop people on third down. They can't stop people when they need to stop. And they're going to a San Diego team that's trying to stay relevant. The Raiders are behind Kansas City. Who wins this game?
Well, I'll say this. It was pretty disheartening news to hear that Frank Clark's dealing with a nerve issue, and that's why you haven't seen him at his best for the Chiefs this year. So that kind of explains something for me from him. I was wondering what happened to him. But anyways, as far as this game, the Chargers will find some way to lose this game, and the Chiefs will find some way to win it. And sure enough, Mahomes will make a highlight play happen yet again. So I'm going with the Chiefs winning this game. Probably be a little closer than what we would expect it to be.
The real question is this a home game or another road game for the Chargers since this is in Mexico City?
Yeah, right.
Oh man, it'll probably be a home game for the Chiefs because the Chargers, all their fans are in San Diego. Other than that, that's it.
All 6 of them.
And Kansas City, they do travel. A final question for you, and Reggie and T, you guys can answer it after this, but I want to ask Mike this question. The rules violation that could sideline and probably will sideline Chase Young at Ohio State. So the story goes, as you all know, is that he was in the Rose Bowl, the biggest game of his collegiate career. He wanted his girlfriend to come, his significant other, not married or whatever, but significant other, to be there. He borrowed the money to get her out there. He paid it back. The NCAA is now, looking at Mike suspending him, maybe 4 games or whatever. If that's the case, he won't play in any games the rest of this year. So what do you think is going to happen? What do you think overall is the picture with the NCAA? Because my thing is this: no harm, no foul. He paid it back. What are you serving? What are you doing? What are you accomplishing if this kid can't play for Ohio State? I mean, what are you doing? What is the purpose of you doing this? Did he cheat on an SAT? What are you doing? And this is the whole purpose. The bigger picture of this, Mike, is that what are you serving by doing this to this particular kid in this particular situation? It's not a black thing, a white thing. It's a kid thing. What are you serving? And so what do you think is going to happen, and what's your thoughts on this whole situation?
My thoughts on it are, honestly, if he didn't pay the loan back, I'd be more worried about it than I would if he didn't actually do the loan and whatever. But, in this instance, he took the loan, he paid it back. I mean, honestly, I don't see any problem with what happened. But, of course, the NCAA, they had their bylaws and all those little bitty things, and it is what it is. He kind of, NCAA reminds me of that guy. You remember that guy in Necessary Roughness that was trying to get kids in trouble and trying to get them to lose games? You remember that movie? That's what the NCAA reminds me of a lot. And honestly, in this instance, I don't think it garners a 4-game suspension. It's almost as bad as a tattoo suspension. It just is annoying. It's annoying and stupid. It's pointless. Leave it alone.
Yeah, it's really stupid, and it really can. I mean, not that I'm defending Ohio State over HBCUs or anybody else, but I mean, it's just a really stupid thing that at the end of the day, these committees that come up with these violations, like, you sticking your chest out over this, like, really, it's just really, really crazy. Mike, before you go, let folks know how they can reach out to you and follow you, sir. We really, really, truly, truly appreciate your time, sir.
Well, you can find me, you can't find me on Twitter right now, but that's a whole other story. But anyway, you can find me at sportsawakening.com. Let's see. You can find me on Instagram, of course. I'm there at Sports Awakening or the General MP, whichever you want to go to. Of course, let's see, 3-point conversion, which next year I'll be having some great things going on with them. And, I still have other places as well. And according to, a few others, I got a book coming out. So that'll be kind of floating out there too.
Well, I appreciate you, man. As always, be well, be safe, you and your babies and your wife, and we will talk with you next week. Thank you so much, sir.
All righty.
All right, appreciate you. Mike Patton, always good to have him on, talking some college and NFL and everything else under the sun. Guys, the same question to you, T-Mac. This kid paid back his debt. It wasn't even like an NCAA debt. It was like he borrowed the money so his girlfriend can come out to the Rose Bowl to see him play. And it's kind of twofold too, T, because in a sense that it's the outrage, and I hate to do this, but the outrage of him getting this sentence and maybe getting this suspension is there, but the outrage is because of who he is. Had this been an HBCU situation, it might be different. It might be right away.
It'd be worse.
Right, it'd be worse. So that's my point. That's part of the point.
Well, no, I reiterate what I said in the Memphis thing. It's then they wonder why these kids say to hell with college ball and they go to the pros. Now, with football, it's a little bit different, but this is the exact reason why kids are like, you know what? No, if this is what I'm gonna have to put up with, because again, think about it. They were trying to, in one instance, there's one kid that basically was trying to better himself, and then in another instance, trying to get trying to share in his success. But, and see, there's always going to be these folks that like, well, if you got to swallow by the rule. It's so easy to sit back and just play ball, try to play, the moral majority here. But again, this is why the NCAA is on its last days, and they figure like they still gotta wield an eye. I think this.
Are they on their last days though? Are they on?
Yeah,
I don't think so.
Well,
they make so much money.
Put it this way. With what's going on in California, and when you're going to start to see with some of these other schools, I think it's slowly but surely, because I think the kids are just getting tired of the mess, because it's silly. It's out and out silly. Like I said, it's like the league of jealous girlfriends, and that's the thing about it. It's beyond petty. It's very, very petty stuff. And when you look at the other powers that be, like coaches and all these other folks that can make all sorts of money. And let's be honest, it is about the money. Like, how dare these kids show some upward mobility, or actually show some whatever, to their families. I mean, it's crazy. It's absolutely crazy.
Yeah, Reggie, your thoughts on that? That we've seen it at the college level of the level of famous people trying to get their kids in the athletic programs, that their kids don't even play athletics, which is even crazier. That's even crazier. That's even more sinister. But your thoughts on this?
Well, first of all, hats off to Magic Johnson's media group for donating $1 million to Grambling. I guess they put Grambling on probation for that. That's a whole other 2-hour show. Mm-hmm. And I'll just say that, as T-Max Ugly put it, how many of these people that are upset that Ohio State's number 1 or either number 2? The 5 families want it done a certain way. The SEC is getting all that loose change over the last couple of years, and then God forbid somebody comes and break the party. And for LSU to be there and Ohio State to be there, they got to get another SEC team in there. What better way to knock Ohio State off and try to start another SEC team in there? Oh, say Alabama. Just food for thought.
But Reg, the only thing I would say is, though, this is a legitimate kid, right? And he's at a big program, and we get that. Like, we're all in agreement about the programs. But this is a legitimate kid that's working hard to play, right? He all accounts, we don't know if his parents are paying and cheating and all that, right? So that's not in the equation. And so he's getting penalized for borrowing money from somebody and paying it back. You know what I'm saying? He's paying it back. He's not doing anything bad. He wanted his girlfriend to come see him play football. Like, what is wrong with that? Just from an NCAA standpoint, what's wrong with that? There's nothing wrong with that. And that's a problem. Like, that is a problem. The fact that you or I want to go and see us play, and the NCAA is saying, hello? The NCAA is saying that there's something wrong with that. So I don't get that.
Once again, follow the money. It's all about following the money. And I hope that these different states get these different legislation passed so they get their likeness out there and they can put the NCAA on notice. Guess what, boys? It's a new sheriff in town. And you ain't